The past wasn't supposed to be alive, and yet Anna found herself staring into a window that refused to let its secrets stay buried. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Before diving into this extraordinary tale, take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more intriguing stories like this. Let's now take a look at Anna's window into the past, a past that reveals a shadowy secret. Anna Hartford prided herself on her keen eye for hidden treasures. As a history enthusiast and antique collector, her weekends were often spent scouring estate sales and small-town shops for artifacts that whispered stories of a bygone era. On one such outing, she stumbled upon a quaint, dusty antique store tucked between a bakery and a hardware shop on the outskirts of town. The faded sign above the door read, "Yesterday's Echoes." The shop was crammed with relics from every imaginable era: tarnished candlesticks, faded oil paintings, weathered trunks. But it was an unassuming wooden frame leaning against the far wall that caught her attention. Its wood was polished but unadorned, its dimensions neither too large nor too small. What made it stand out was the glass. A peculiar, almost liquid-like shimmer danced across its surface. The shopkeeper, a stooped man with round glasses perched on his nose, approached her. The old window frame. Found that in an estate clean out a few towns over. Doesn't look like much, but there's something about it, isn't there? Anna nodded. There was indeed something compelling about it, though she couldn't quite put her finger on why. Does it have any history? She asked. The shopkeeper shrugged. Not that I know of. The house it came from was abandoned for decades. You can have it for $20 if you're interested. Something about the frame, its understated elegance, its strange allure, made her decision easy. She paid the shopkeeper and carefully loaded it into her car, already imagining where it might fit in her home. She leaned it against the wall for the time being, intending to find a more permanent place for it later. As the evening light streamed through her window, it caught the frame's glass, and Anna noticed something odd. Instead of reflecting her study, the glass seemed to show a different scene altogether. She leaned closer, squinting. The image was faint but unmistakable. It depicted a street, her street, but the details were wrong. The houses looked newer, their architecture more in line with early 20th century styles. Horse-drawn carriages rolled down the dirt road, and people dressed in vintage attire strolled by. Anna's breath caught in her throat. She blinked, expecting the illusion to vanish, but the scene remained. It was as though the frame's glass was a portal, showing her town as it had been a century ago. Compelled by equal parts curiosity and disbelief, Anna placed the frame on her desk and pulled a chair closer. She watched the scene unfold in mesmerizing detail. A lamplighter made his rounds, children played with a hoop and stick, and a street vendor called out the day's specials. Her fingers trembled as she touched the glass. It felt cool and solid, yet the scene moved as though she were watching a living tableau. She tried to rationalize it. A trick of the light, an old photograph somehow embedded in the glass. But the fluid, ever-changing nature of the image defied all logic. The hours slipped by as Anna became lost in the frame's mysterious vision. She jotted down every detail she observed, hoping to cross-reference it with the town's historical records. As the scene finally faded with the setting sun, Anna leaned back in her chair, her mind spinning. What had she just witnessed? Could it really be possible to glimpse the past through an antique window frame? And if so, what else might it reveal? Determined to uncover the truth, Anna resolved to investigate further. The frame's secrets were too tantalizing to ignore, and she couldn't shake the feeling that it had come into her possession for a reason. Anna's obsession with the window frame grew stronger in the days that followed. Each evening, she would position it carefully on her desk, waiting for the light to shift and the vision of the past to appear. As the town's history unfolded before her, she began to recognize familiar landmarks: her home, the old church at the corner, and the town square, all looking pristine and vibrant. One evening, as she gazed through the frame, her attention was drawn to a young boy playing near the town's fountain. He couldn't have been older than 8, with messy blonde hair and a mischievous grin. He tossed a ball into the air, catching it deftly as he laughed. Anna smiled, charmed by the scene. But as she continued to watch, the boy's carefree demeanor shifted. He froze mid-motion, his head snapping toward the edge of the frame, where the scene blurred slightly. His expression turned to one of confusion, then fear. The boy dropped his ball and hesitated, glancing around as though searching for help. Anna leaned closer, her pulse quickening. The boy took a tentative step forward, then another, moving toward the frame's edge. Just as he was about to disappear from view, a dark shadow passed behind him. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it sent a chill down Anna's spine. And then the boy was gone. The fountain remained in view, but the boy had vanished. His ball rolled to a stop at the base of the fountain, forgotten. Anna's fingers gripped the desk as she stared at the frame, willing the scene to change, for the boy to reappear. But the moment passed, and the vision faded with the dimming light. Unease settled over her. Who was the boy? What had happened to him? The shadow had been too fleeting to identify, but its presence felt ominous. Anna couldn't shake the feeling that she had just witnessed something significant, something tragic. The next morning, she visited the town's library, determined to uncover the boy's identity. She pored over old photographs, newspapers, and records, focusing on the era the frame had shown. It wasn't long before she found an article that sent shivers through her. Dated nearly a century ago, the headline read, "Local boy missing near town square." The article described the disappearance of an 8-year-old boy named Tommy Albright, last seen playing by the fountain. Witnesses reported seeing him moments before he vanished, but no one could explain what happened. The search had gone on for weeks, but Tommy was never found. His family eventually moved away, their grief too great to bear. Anna's heart sank as she read the details. The boy she had seen was Tommy Albright. She had watched the moments leading up to his disappearance, yet she was powerless to intervene. That evening, Anna sat before the frame once more. This time, her curiosity was tinged with dread. She hoped to see Tommy again, to gather more clues about what had happened to him. But as the scene reappeared, it was as though the frame itself resisted her search. The fountain was empty, the boy nowhere in sight. Frustrated but undeterred, Anna began piecing together what she knew. If the frame showed the past, and if Tommy had vanished into its depths, then perhaps the frame held the key to solving his disappearance. But how could she interact with what she saw? How could she bring Tommy back to view, or bring him home? The questions weighed on her as the shadows lengthened in her study. Whatever secrets the frame held, Anna was determined to uncover them. She had seen too much to turn back now. Anna couldn't let go of the mystery surrounding Tommy's disappearance. Though the window frame now seemed to resist showing the boy's image, she felt certain that the answer lay within its shimmering glass. She spent hours researching old maps, town records, and genealogy databases, tracing any mention of the boy from the newspaper article she had discovered. It wasn't long before she unearthed more details about his family. Tommy Albright, the youngest of 4 siblings, had lived with his family in a modest home near the town square. His father had worked as a blacksmith, while his mother was known for her skill in herbal remedies. The family's name appeared sporadically in local records, but after Tommy's disappearance, they seemed to fade into obscurity, as if trying to erase themselves from the town's history. As Anna pieced together the Albright story, she began to notice strange connections to her own family history. Her great-grandmother, Eleanor Hartford, had lived in the same area around the time of Tommy's disappearance. Among her belongings, which Anna had inherited years ago, was an old journal. Though Anna had flipped through its pages before, she had never paid much attention to its contents, until now. Pulling the journal from a shelf, Anna scanned the entries for any mention of the Albrights or the disappearance. Her heart skipped a beat when she found an entry dated just days after Tommy had vanished. June 12, 1923. There's been such sorrow in the town this week. The Albright boy is missing, and the whole square feels heavier for it. I saw Mrs. Albright yesterday, and she looked like a ghost of herself. I wanted to comfort her, but what could I say? I don't think they'll ever find him. Anna's fingers tightened around the journal. The entry confirmed Eleanor had been aware of the incident, But it was the next line that sent shivers down her spine. Last night, I had the strangest dream. I saw a shadow in the square, something not quite human. It reached for the boy, and he was gone. When I woke, I felt as though I'd seen something real, something terrible. The shadow. Anna's thoughts raced back to the fleeting darkness she had seen in the window frame. Could Eleanor's dream have been more than just a figment of her imagination? Could it have been a memory, or even a warning? Determined to dig deeper, Anna searched through the attic for more of Eleanor's belongings. Amid boxes of faded photographs and yellowed letters, she found a small wooden box etched with intricate carvings. Inside was a bundle of papers and an old key. The papers included sketches of the town square, focusing on the fountain where Tommy had last been seen. One sketch showed a strange figure, a tall, indistinct shape lurking behind the fountain. The key was labeled simply, cellar. Anna's house, like many in the area, had a cellar that she rarely entered. She hurried downstairs, the key clutched tightly in her hand. The door to the cellar creaked as she unlocked it, revealing a damp, musty space filled with cobwebs. She explored cautiously, her flashlight illuminating shelves lined with jars and forgotten tools. In the far corner, beneath a pile of old crates, she found something unexpected, a small wooden chest. The chest's carvings matched those on the box she had found in the attic. Inside were more sketches and a handwritten note from Eleanor. To whoever finds this, beware the shadow. It watches from the edges of time, waiting to claim what is lost. The window is a door, but it is not meant to be opened. Anna's hands trembled as she read the note. Eleanor had known about the window frame. She had seen the shadow, and she had tried to warn anyone who might follow in her footsteps. The pieces were beginning to fall into place, but the mystery was far from solved. What was the shadow? What did it want? And how was the frame connected to it all? Anna's resolve hardened. If the frame truly was a door, then perhaps she could use it to reach Tommy and uncover the truth. But as Eleanor's warning echoed in her mind, she couldn't help but wonder what opening the door might cost her. The days that followed were marked by an urgency Anna couldn't explain. The warning in Eleanor's note weighed heavily on her, but so did the knowledge that Tommy's fate was still unresolved. Every night, she sat before the frame, willing it to reveal more, to grant her another glimpse of the past. Yet the visions remained stubbornly fixed on empty streets and lifeless corners of the town. Anna's breakthrough came when she decided to experiment with the frame. Remembering Eleanor's description of the shadow's presence at the fountain, she placed an old map of the town's square beneath the frame and aligned its edges with the glass. As dusk settled, the frame flickered to life, its shimmering surface shifting to reveal the familiar view of the fountain. But this time, something was different. The shadow was there. It hovered near the base of the fountain, an indistinct, amorphous mass that seemed to ripple and pulse as though alive. Anna's heart raced as she leaned closer. The shadow was unlike anything she had ever seen, not a person, not an animal, but something entirely other. It moved slowly, methodically, as if searching for something. Before she could stop herself, Anna spoke aloud. "What are you?" The shadow paused. Though it had no face, no eyes, Anna felt its attention turned toward her. The glass of the frame seemed to hum faintly, vibrating beneath her fingertips. She recoiled, breaking the contact, and the vision dissolved. Her breathing was shallow, her palms clammy. Whatever the shadow was, it had heard her. Anna knew she couldn't stop now. The frame was more than a portal. It was a tool, perhaps even a weapon. But if she was going to confront the shadow and uncover the truth, she needed to understand the rules of its world. She turned again to Eleanor's papers, combing through the sketches and notes for any clue about how to interact with the frame's visions. One line stood out. "The shadow feeds on time. It takes what is forgotten and leaves emptiness in its wake." Anna considered the implications. If the shadow thrived on forgotten moments, then perhaps her act of remembering, of uncovering Tommy's story, could weaken it. But how could she bring back a moment so long past? In her desperation, Anna made a decision. She retrieved a collection of old photographs she had found in the attic, many of which included Eleanor, the town square, and even the fountain. Placing the photographs beneath the frame, she watched as the glass shimmered and flickered. Slowly, the images transformed, merging into a living tableau. Tommy was there. He stood near the fountain, his ball in hand, his expression one of pure innocence. Anna's breath caught as she saw him glance toward the edge of the frame, where the shadow waited. "Run, Tommy. Get away from it." The boy froze, as if sensing something. His gaze shifted, and for a brief moment, Anna thought he might have heard her. The shadow lunged, moving faster than she had ever seen. In her panic, Anna reached for the frame, pressing her hands against the glass. The hum returned, louder this time, resonating through her entire body. The frame's vision flickered, the shadow's form twisting and recoiling. Tommy turned, his small figure darting away from the fountain and out of view. The scene dissolved, leaving Anna staring at her reflection in the now lifeless glass. She collapsed into her chair, trembling. The shadow had been stopped for now, but she knew it wasn't over. Whatever connection the frame had forged between the past and present, it was growing stronger. And as Eleanor's warning echoed in her mind, Anna realized she was running out of time. If she didn't act soon, the shadow would claim her, too. Anna knew she couldn't delay any longer. The frame was more than a relic. It was a doorway tethered to something ancient and malevolent. If she didn't end this, the shadow would continue to claim whatever it desired, and Tommy's story would remain unfinished. Determined, Anna spent the following day preparing. She studied Eleanor's notes, memorizing every detail she could about the shadow and the frame. Among the sketches was a crude drawing of the frame surrounded by symbols, with a single line scrawled beneath it. To sever the connection, the past must be reclaimed. Anna interpreted the cryptic message as her final task. She had to confront the shadow and free Tommy from its grip. But how? The frame seemed to resist direct interference, and her attempts to communicate with the boy had been fleeting at best. Still, she couldn't ignore the one thing that had affected the shadow before: her touch on the glass. That evening, she positioned the frame on her desk and placed the photographs and map beneath it once again. As twilight descended, the glass shimmered, revealing the town square. This time, the scene was static, as though frozen in time. Tommy stood near the fountain, his small figure caught mid-motion. The shadow loomed nearby, its form pulsating with an eerie, otherworldly energy. Anna placed her hands on the glass. The hum returned, stronger than ever, resonating through her body. She closed her eyes, focusing all her thoughts on Tommy, his face, his laughter, the life that had been stolen from him. The glass grew warm under her palms, and the scene began to shift. The shadow recoiled, its amorphous shape shrinking as if in pain. Tommy turned, his expression one of confusion and fear. Anna's voice trembled as she spoke, hoping that Tommy could hear her. "Run, Tommy. Get away from it." The boy's gaze locked on hers, as though sensing her presence. He took a tentative step toward the edge of the frame, his movements slow and hesitant. The shadow surged forward, its form growing larger and more menacing. Anna pressed harder against the glass, the hum now a deafening roar in her ears. "Reach for my hand. You'll be safe," she cried, her voice filled with determination. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The shadow lunged, its dark tendrils reaching for Tommy. But as it did, the boy's figure solidified and, suddenly, he tumbled out of the frame and into Anna's study. The glass shattered, scattering shards across the desk and floor. The hum ceased, leaving an almost deafening silence in its wake. Anna collapsed to the floor beside Tommy, her chest heaving. The boy looked up at her, bewildered and frightened. She pulled him close, tears streaming down her face. "You're safe now," she whispered. In the days that followed, Anna pieced together Tommy's new life. Though he had been pulled into the present, his family in the past had still endured the tragedy of his disappearance. Anna couldn't change their pain, but she could ensure Tommy's safety and honor the life they had lost. She worked tirelessly with local authorities to establish Tommy's identity and give him a place in the modern world, all while ensuring the remnants of the frame were buried deep in the cellar, never to be used again. Though the experience left Anna deeply shaken, it also gave her a profound sense of purpose. She had not only broken the Shadow's power but also provided closure for Tommy's story. Her great-grandmother's bravery and insight had guided her through the ordeal, and Anna vowed to continue her research into the town's past, this time with a newfound respect for the mysteries it held. Tommy's presence in the present was a bittersweet reminder of the family who had lost him, but Anna found solace in knowing he was safe. She visited the fountain often, placing flowers there as a tribute to the past that had shaped their lives. And though she occasionally felt the lingering presence of the shadow in the corners of her mind, she knew its power had been broken. The window was closed. The past had been acknowledged. And for the first time in weeks, Anna felt truly free. Thank you for diving into our incredible stories. If you enjoyed the journey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures.